Welcome. You're listening to The Aligned Self, Conversations in Creating a Conscious and Abundant Life. This is Daniel Denovi. I'll be your guide and host. Let's see just where we can take this. Hello, friend, and welcome back to the conversation. Now, if you've been listening to these episodes live as they're released, then you may be welcoming me back, because it has been a couple, I'm raising my hand and I'm admitting, being authentic here, it's been a couple weeks since I've posted, since I've recorded anything. And while in the grand scheme of things, taking a couple weeks off isn't that big a deal, it just wasn't really on my calendar. I just kind of hit a wall. And I do want to go into a deeper dive in a future episode very, very soon on what happened about my mindset and what I was saying to myself, the vibration, how I was being in relationship to what was showing up or what I was attracting to my life. I want to share that as a case study, how to negatively manifest things in your life. And I only say negatively because there are things that I didn't really want to, yet we are always manifesting. And so I think if I present it as a case study, you can actually see the different components of manifestation, law of attraction, and how it works in attracting what you do want and what you don't want. Because we are always in the process of manifesting, of attracting. But I have to admit, it has seemed odd not recording. Because since I started this podcast, well, even before that, when I was doing another podcast, I was recording 2 to 3 episodes a week, which, frankly, is a lot. It's a full plate. And I've been going nonstop, nary a break, since then, since I started on April 16th. We did arrive at the end of 2021 with 83 episodes in the bank, which is a feather in my cap, I guess, because for a new podcast, we've just hit 30,000 downloads, which frankly staggers my mind a little bit, because since I started being a coach, back in 1988, I've worked and interacted with 10,000 people. So having 30,000 listens, 30,000 downloads is, I guess I'm expanding my game. Now, the majority of my practice has been in the physical world, in workshops and seminars, in one-on-one conversations, and the online space is relatively new to me. And I have to admit, oftentimes feels slightly uncomfortable. And even talking into a microphone, all by myself in my office, has been a learning process because, frankly, I love looking into people's eyes. I like seeing the responses. A large part of my information that I gather as I am conversing with other people or in conversation is that I look at the nonverbals. I look at the nonverbal communication. And so I have to imagine it. This is a kind of a fantasy world, talking into the microphone, expecting someone on the other side to listen. But I know you're out there. I can see the evidence. And I love the feedback. I love the responses. I love the reviews. I love the emails. Because it just lets me know that, I'm touching you. Let me say, I'm making an impact in a way that makes a difference for your life, and that makes it worthwhile for me. So I'm just not here, because it's not really self-indulgent in me just getting behind the microphone and just spewing stuff out into the ether. It's nice to know that there is someone on the other end that's receiving it, and receiving it in a way that it works for you, that it enhances your life. Because from my point of view, why else put material out there in the world unless it expands the conversation? Because have you noticed that conversations either expand possibility or they contract possibility? And so it's been one of my purposes on the planet to always expand possibility. even with my wife, even with my family, my friends. And I don't typically complain. I don't typically gossip. I don't see the point. I don't like the energy behind it. And frankly, that has been one of the drawbacks in going through the last 3-4 weeks and me not wanting to acknowledge certain things, at least not saying them out loud. Yet I entertain the thoughts. Again, I'm going to talk about it in a case study. The other thing I want to talk about on an episode very, very soon is just the whole thing of completion, because we did just, arrive at the end of 2021 and begin a whole new year, 2022. Now, it's created. We just arbitrarily pick a date, January 1st, and call that a new beginning. So what does it mean? And for many people, it does feel fresh. It does feel like you can put the year behind you, everything that worked and everything that didn't work, and begin afresh, begin anew. So my cat Binks just crawled in my arms as if he had to be in this conversation. He was meowing at the door, and normally when I let him in, he curls up in my office chair and sleeps. But for some reason, he is in my lap and now in my arms as I speak. And if you've seen the movie Hocus Pocus, that's where the Binks is from, but our Binks is a lot prettier than that cat. But I want to have an episode on completion, endings, and being complete with what was and what wasn't. And I do want to have a little bit of the year in review. I was actually trying to think about some of the episodes, a lot of the episodes that I've done. I can hardly remember what I talked about. And on one hand, that's because, some of it's channeled, and some of it because once I say it, I've said it. So I am going to go back and create a whole list, or I guess a spreadsheet, of the different episodes, what the topic was. And so I have it for myself, and I can make it available for all y'all. I just love that Texas phrase. Rather than you guys, just say you all. Now, I guess if it's just 1 to 3 of you, it's just y'all. But if it's more than 3, then I can say all y'all, like all you guys, all y'all. Well, I don't know if you've noticed, but my voice is just a little ragged because over the holidays, my wife's boys spent some time with their dad, with his family, and they came back to us with COVID. Well, they actually tested for COVID. Whether they had COVID or not, who knows? Who knows how accurate the tests actually are? But they have the sniffles, they have the sore throat, they have the headache. And I now have a sore throat. So that's why I don't want to do a lot on this episode. I just wanted to touch base and let you know I'm still alive, and that I'm kicking, and I got plans for the future here. And for the most part, my symptoms have been very mild. I've felt worse in years past when I did get sick. And again, this is part of that realm of quote unquote negative manifesting. I had set it up. I set up the criteria, I set the platform to where this could show up. And I do want to backtrack just a couple steps here and say, I'm not pointing fingers about anyone who brought COVID in, because it's out there. Sooner or later, somebody's going to get it. Sooner or later, if you are one to get sick, or you're open to sickness, COVID is going to visit you, because, it's just like the flu, or it's just like the cold. Coronavirus is a flu virus and has been considered a flu virus for a couple decades. And is this virus significantly different from viruses in the past? I guess it depends on who you ask. I definitely have my opinion, and the world certainly has made much ado about this. Whether it's warranted, we'll see. I actually think that much information will come out in this year, in 2022. A lot of people that have been asleep to some degree, or having their head in the sand, will reach a point to where you can no longer ignore certain things. But I've decided that I'm not going to use the podcast as a platform for my opinion. If you're interested in my opinion, you're more than welcome to email me and ask me my point of view, but I'm not really going to talk about it at length here. Because frankly, I am a firm believer that we create our reality. So our experience of the world is a reflection of our mind. It's a reflection of what we allow in. We are not at the mercy of life. We're not at the mercy of circumstance unless we allow ourselves to be. And frankly, I'm raising my hand. Over the past 3 to 4 weeks, I have allowed myself to be at the mercy of events. But, I've made reference to the movie Rocky, and in the 14th round, he gets knocked down, and he claws his way back up, and he goes back in the corner, and he says something to the effect, "I'm not going down no more." Frankly, that's where I find myself. After this last 3 weeks, I've put some things in place to where I can maintain and manage my vibration a lot better. I realize that I can't extend myself as much because it does take a certain amount of energy. And, I feel other people's energies too. So I have to maintain my boundaries. I'm just managing my energy in a different way. And this has been a year of managing energy. Can I be too redundant about that over and over again? But everything is energy. And so energy is everything. Which reminds me, one of my listeners had contacted me about they had gone to the zoo and he was sending energy to the elephants. He was communicating with the elephants and they were responding. And yet afterwards, he felt tapped out. He felt tired. And this happens when we send energy. And y'all have had people ask, would you pray for me? Would you send me energy? Somebody has said, say a prayer for me. If you've been on Facebook, it comes up all the time. And so what do? Do you send energy from you? Which a lot of people do. And this is what my listener did. He was projecting energy from him. And we have to think of ourselves as an energy conduit. And the energy comes from the ether, from God, Goddess, all that is, through our crown chakra, down into our body, and then we can send it out through our heart chakra or through our hands if you're a healer. But the healing energy, the energy you send out, I suggest not to come from you, but through you. And so when you allow energy to flow through you, there is an abundance. There's more than enough. You never get tapped out. But we're human. We have egos, and we think that, we're sending the energy. We're doing the work. Not so much. Well, I can notice that my voice is beginning to get a little ragged. It's beginning to reach the limits of its capacity at this round. But I want to give you a little teaser, too, about what's coming up. I'm going to continue to talk about intuition and manifesting, because I think that's our spiritual path. Manifesting money, manifesting the life you want, creating the life you want, that is your spiritual journey. And it's very spiritual to attract money. I just remembered back when I first advertised that I was leading firewalks. A woman could not believe that I was charging $75 for a firewalk. She saw the firewalk as being a spiritual event, and my charging money for a spiritual experience was crass, was beneath me. And frankly, she was offended that I was actually asking for some remuneration. And that's a mindset that's not conducive to leading a spiritual life. Money is energy. And again, it's that whole concept. Does energy flow through you or does it come from you? She expected me to pay for the wood, pay for the space, pay for the experience, and she wanted to come and not invest anything. So there's this misnomer that money has nothing to do with spirituality. Well, I beg to differ. Your ability to receive money has everything to do with you receiving abundance, receiving your spiritual bounty. It's not just in one arena, it's in every arena of your life. So we're going to be talking more about manifestation and receiving and creation. We're also going to be talking more about neuro-linguistic programming, because I'm going to be putting that into the vault, into my membership vault in February. And NLP is at the core of what I do. It's at the core of my thinking in many regards. I've been studying NLP since 1988. I became certified as a practitioner, a master practitioner, a trainer of NLP. I'm a certified hypnotist, consulting hypnotist. Yet I have to admit that I have talked very little about specifically what neuro-linguistic programming is, what NLP is. So we'll be talking more about that. I'll be talking about different aspects of it, but we'll also be talking about virtually every aspect of being human, especially self-identity. In March, I have a new session of my coaching program, my signature program, The Aligned Self. That's going to kick off in March. But again, I use the podcast to inform you, educate you, whether or not you take part in a coaching program at all. So I want you to have the information, access to the ideas. And I imagine by the time you listen to all the podcasts over the years, you'll have all the material that I have in my coaching programs. And speaking or referencing podcast episodes, I've been thinking about a lot over the last couple of weeks on just how many episodes I want to do in 2022. And frankly, I like the 3-episode-a-week format. When I can get them out at 3 a week, it makes me feel good. It feels like, we're having an ongoing conversation. It feels more like a hobby if I just do 1 a week. And I don't like that. You let me know. Let me know in the Facebook group. In fact, if you're not a member yet of our Facebook group, the Aligned Self Podcast Listeners Facebook group, by all means, join us. You can interact with me there, or you can email me. You can contact me on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. There's multiple ways to connect with me. And give me your opinion. Let me know how many episodes a week, do you like? And frankly, in the end, I'm going to do what I want to do. But it's nice to know what you prefer or what would work for you. And I realize there's, a couple thousand of you listening or more, depending on when you listen into this episode. In addition to telling me how often you'd like to hear from me, I would love to hear the topics you'd like me to dive deeper into, or what episode you found particularly valuable. Because, I have a lot of different things I can talk about, and sometimes it's guided by intuition. Many times it's guided by intuition. I think I'm going to be talking about one thing and another thing pops up. Well, with that said, I really just want to get across that I love hearing from you because I like the conversation. I like knowing, or that interaction, the exchange of energy in the world. And I want to have conversations that make a difference. And knowing that it makes a difference for you fuels my mission, it helps me get up in the morning. It really does. Helps me get up in the morning. And I realize that many of you are just here temporarily. You're just passing through. You're listening to a few episodes. Some of the ideas that you hear make sense. And then others of you are fans. You tune in every week. We have conversations. It's part of your life, listening to the podcast. And others of you stumbled across it and maybe didn't find much value in it, and you went on. So whatever level of engagement you're in, just know that from my heart, I want you to have the best life. That's all I want for you. I want your life to be self-expressed, for you to know to your bones that you create your reality, that you have a say in the world. You can make an impact. You can leave a legacy. And it doesn't have to be world peace. I just want you to have the best life for you. And if you're happy, if you're at peace, if you're at joy, then I know you're going to impact everyone around you. You're going to impact, it's going to go out as ripples. And one of my favorite quotes is that only God can count the number of apples in an apple seed. And what I do here is I plant seeds of possibility. So that's it for this episode. This is your host, Daniel Denovi, urging you to follow your bliss and by all means, live the epic life.